After all these years of promoting and trying to win the black vote, finally, one of these two white men are finally going to fix everything for black people, and that's why you got to vote for him, and you're a sheep if you vote for the other person. That's what we're arguing about.
That's another problem that I have with this whole movement. Mm-hmm. Not just the movement, but, and we're trying to keep our politics separate, but those governmental organizations that support this. Not once have I heard any person involved in this mention God, church, anything like that. It's not part of the process. And how can black people who call themselves Christians allow these kind of things to exclude what you say you believe?
We're having to make a choice in 2020 onward between blackness and Jesus. And the problem is we're being told that blackness and Jesus are not compatible, and that Jesus is not, it's not coincidental when you began to see the assault on the churches and the even in the Catholic Church when they were tearing down statues of Jesus because he's a European Jesus, isn't that right? Mm-hmm. That stuff, when I began to see some of the stuff, I was like, okay, how does this directly impact and assist the black condition? Why are we attacking structures? Why are we attacking, for example, Mount Rushmore? Why are we attacking, and this was the organization doing themselves, but syrup bottles and sports teams, and like, what exactly, how does this tangibly cause or affect change? And it didn't add up. But this book that we're going to talk about in this episode, Color, Communism, Common Sense, actually breaks that down. And again, the description of the video, you can go to a link where you can read it for free. You can purchase it on Amazon too, but you can read it for free there. It's just a legitimate site. And you can read it in a day because it's like a small pamphlet, basically. And we're going to reference some of it. I would encourage you to read it first, but we're going to reference some of the key points. But it mirrors 2020 in a nutshell. And it's going to show the conflict between communism and Christianity, and Black Lives Matter and Christianity, and you having to kind of choose a side, to be perfectly honest. The book's written by Manning Johnson. He was a black man in America in the 1930s. He was a part of the Communist Party in the United States of America. It was being run and directed by the Kremlin in the Soviet Union at the time. That was the seat of communist power. Yeah. So the idea was, let's infect the US with communism. That was the idea. He was passionate about it because, to quote his words, he was told, because he had a lot of injustices because of skin color. It's the 30s.
Yeah.
Anything we talked about or we experienced, ain't nothing like whatever happened in the 30s. No. So he was told that capitalism was responsible for those injustices. There was a capitalist society was a problem, and that you had to get rid of it. So, in his own words, this is what he said. He said, just and seeming grievances are exploited to transform idealism into a cold and ruthless weapon against the capitalist system. That is the end toward which all the communist efforts among Negroes are directed. After 10 years, he realized that communism was not trying to help Negroes. It was actually manipulating and using them. Yeah. And he saw behind the curtain and saw that. And when you read the book, it's very eye-opening, very interesting to realize this actually happened in America. Yeah. But I'm just going to hit a couple key points because it will take too long to just read the book. I wish I could just read the book to you, but I trust that you'll read it yourself. But it was through a black organization that he got brought into communism. It was called the American Negro Labor Congress. He called it one of many front organizations set up by communists to ensnare black people. For 2 years, he got trained to organize street demonstrations, incite mob violence, and how to fight the police, and how to politically throw a brick and hide. So he got trained how to do the stuff that we're seeing in the streets right out there. Yeah. Fair enough. So he was on a commission in this organization to help subvert Negroes. The commission had white people on it. And they said that was because, we want, racial equality. But what happened was, if you were black and on this commission, if you ever said something that didn't go along the party line, they would attack you, possibly kick you off the commission. But he said they would say that you were being nationalist, and you were placing black interests above the Communist Party. So although we were here as communists to help black people, in reality, if you were too black or you put black interests above communist interests, then you were a nationalist, you were part of the problem, you were part of the bourgeois elite, and you were being too black. And you didn't want it to happen, so you had to kind of stay in line. These white people were keeping these black people in line in communism.
Yeah.
What's interesting is, when I saw that word about nationalism, I remember something I read on the Black Lives Matter website, and they have a statement on there that says they are liberators, they believe in an inclusive and spacious movement. We also believe that in order to win and bring as many people with us along the way, we must move beyond the narrow nationalism that is all too prevalent in black communities. We must assure we are building a movement that brings all of us to the front. So it was just weird to me that almost verbatim was like, okay, so the Communist Party was against the blacks being nationalists and placing black interests above communism. And then you get the Black Lives Matter website, another black organization saying that black people have too much narrow nationalism in their communities, that we're too focused on blackness, but we need to build a movement that brings everybody to the front. And I'm like, this is supposed to be a black organization. I am not someone who defines my life by my skin color, but if I was, I would want to be a part of a black organization that cared and placed black interests above all. Not that told me that I was narrow-minded or a narrow nationalist, because that's my chief concern. So I'm trying to figure out where's the disconnect.
See,
here.
and just the fact that they assume that they can manipulate black folks like that should make you upset. Just the fact that, they stupid enough or they dumb enough, they'll go for this.
Yep. He wrote a whole chapter called Subverting Negro Churches and what communists did with that. He said the methods of operation for communists is created doubt, lack of confidence, suspicion, setting up situations that bring about racial bitterness, violence, and conflict, putting forth demands so unrealistic that race relations are worsened, attacking everybody in disagreement as reactionaries, fascists, Ku Kluxers among whites, and Uncle Toms among Negroes. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard the word fascist this year. I can't tell you how many times I've heard KKK this year. I can't tell you how many times I've heard the word Uncle Tom and Coon this year. Every time someone did not fall in line with something that Black Lives Matter was saying. Every time something unrealistic demands, reparations, that's unrealistic. All the socialists, universal health care, universal basic income, all stuff, completely unrealistic. But if I say something against it, if I'm white, I'm white supremacist. If I'm black, I'm an Uncle Tom. So we have now taken everything that disagrees with what we're saying, and it's now a tool of white supremacy. Capitalism, white supremacy, it's all in one. You're white supremacist if you disagree with these things. It's the same thing that was happening back in the 30s.
Yeah. It's history repeating itself. And ultimately, it's to control the black race.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because what people don't realize is the black race has the potential to be the predominant race, especially here in America. And there were certain people that didn't want that. Yeah. And that's what we have now.
In the mid-30s, the communist position was that the black churches and the preachers were a problem because they had such sway over black Christians. And that's true even today.
Yeah.
We'll follow what the preacher is saying. That's not saying that that's a bad thing or anything. I'm just saying that they had sway. So they were trying to attack the preachers, but they realized it wasn't working because black people weren't going for that. Yeah. So they switched around the mid-30s and changed tactics because they realized they were alienating black Christians. So then they began to get the ministers on their side. So they began to bribe them with money, sex with women. They began to do all that. And they infiltrated church membership at the same time to start changing their ideology. So we're getting it from the bottom, getting it from the top. The effort was to get black Christians involved with the movement and then change their religious convictions later. See, the thing was, Manning Johnson was a Christian. So after 10 years of being in all this, his Christian convictions won out. He got away from this. But he's saying here, they were getting black Christians in the movement and then change their religious convictions later. And you mentioned before, how can you be a Christian and still go along with the beliefs of things like Black Lives Matter? But that's the objective. We're going to get you in first on something you care about, these seemingly just grievances, these injustices, and then we'll start messing with your Christian ideology later and switch that out if necessary. They began to say that Jesus was a communist. He was a worker. He was a carpenter, right? So he was against capitalists, because remember, he cast the money changers out of the temple. Those were capitalists. And Jesus is a communist. He's a worker. So he's against the rich. He's pro-poor. And they would be persecuting Jesus today like they persecuted the communists because Jesus is for the people, for the worker, the common man. That's all they had to do. They just had to switch it up. He said in the South, what they would do was, he said, stirring up race and class conflict is the basis of all discussion of the Communist Party. Black rebellion was what the communist leadership wanted. Bloody racial conflict would split America. During the confusion, demoralization and panic would set in. Then finally, the communists say, workers stop work. If I say this, you're going to think I'm going to conspiracy theory mode, but I don't care. We're this far in. It's not ironic to me that in the middle of all this Black Lives Matter and the riots and all that, that we also have a lot of people not working because of COVID-19. Now, am I implying that it was planned? No, but it's just a perfect melting pot for rebellion because they say workers stop work. Many of them seize arms by attacking arsenals. Street fights become frequent. And then under the leadership of the Communist Party, or the communist organizations we have in the streets right now, the workers organize revolutionary committees to command the uprising, and then that overthrow I was talking about, that violent uprising, that's the end goal, to overthrow the nation. So that's the end goal of all this bloody racial conflict. That's what you want to happen. You want that overthrow. And that's why defund the police is so important and get the police out of the streets, because you can't do that if there are police with guns to stop you. So getting the police out the way is not about black people and black violence and all those things. You want to know why it's not? Every year, more white people are killed than black people by police. And as far as the unarmed situation, it's even. In that study, it was like 40 and 40 people, black and white. So higher ratio by black. Let's look at that. Let's deal with that. But the reason I brought that up is this. If I was just making a case for police brutality, I wouldn't just broadcast the names of the black people that got shot that were unarmed. I'll broadcast all of them. If there's 40 white people, I want to know their names. If I'm trying to make a case for police brutality. But I'm not really trying to make a case for police brutality. I'm focusing in on the race issue so that I can cause this racial conflict, so that I can cause this overthrow. But if it's about police brutality, let's name everybody. I don't know. There are no hashtags. I don't know the hashtags for the white people that got killed by police. I didn't realize more white people within a year died than black people. Yes, the ratio is higher because there's less black people in America for black people. Yes, that's true. But more actual by number white people died. But I don't know their names. Right. The news stations didn't tell me that. No. They didn't tell me which hashtag I was supposed to be hashtagging today. They gave me the black people, so I hashtagged that, and I picked up my sign, I protested, and I got mad, and depending on how I am, maybe I rioted, because it's unjust and they're doing it to black people. But I don't know the names of the white people, because it doesn't matter. Because that's not the goal.
No, that's not the goal.
They would take all the incitement of racial warfare and place all the ills of the Negro at the door of the white leaders of America. And they would say that capitalism and imperialism are symbols of oppressive white rule, white supremacy. Capitalism, white supremacy is one and the same. And so that was how they got Negroes to follow them. It's the white leaders of America are the problem.
Aren't they white too?
I'm so glad you said that. The next thing he said was that they place all the blame at the ills of the white leaders in America to remove all responsibility from the Negroes. He said that this will make the Negro feel sorry for himself, blame others for his failures, ignore the countless opportunities around him, jealous of the progress of other racial and national groups, expect the white man to do everything for him, and look for easy and quick solutions as a substitute for the harsh realities of competitive struggle to get ahead. The result is a persecution complex, a warped belief that the white man's prejudices, the white man's system, the white man's government is responsible for everything. Such a belief is the way the communists plan it. For the next logical step is hate that can be used by the communists to accomplish their end. And this is what you said. In their campaign against the white leaders in America, the communists, or the Reds as they call them, are careful to point out this does not apply to the white leaders of communism. This creates the illusion that the white communists are different, that they are friends and champions of the Negroes. I'm not going to tell you which person I'm voting for in November, but I find it hilarious that you can go in the comment section and find black people arguing with each other to figure out which white man is going to fix black people in 2020. I find it hilarious that we're arguing with each other about this white man is going to be the one to finally save the black race. After all these years of promoting and trying to win the black vote, finally, one of these two white men are finally going to fix everything for black people, and that's why you got to vote for him, and you're a sheep if you vote for the other person. That's what we're arguing about. Okay, I'm the look, do you, but this is my belief. I'm going to vote in November, and I'm voting for one of the two men that you're thinking about in your head right now. I'm voting for one of them, and I'm not afraid to say who it is. I'll probably say another video, but I'm not voting for them because I think they can fix the black condition. I'm one of those rare people that believe that the black condition can be fixed by Jesus and black people filled with Jesus, and that we can fix our own communities. And we don't need a politician to do it for us, because if a politician could do it, they would have done it by now. But they have not done it because A, they've been manipulating you and really just trying to get your vote, and B, because they themselves know they're unable to. The fact that the communists have never contributed anything tangible to the progress of the Negro was overlooked, though the Reds have collected millions of dollars as a result of race incitement. Oh, they didn't mention the media. Again, sometimes I have to double check to make sure this book wasn't written now.
Yeah.
Because of what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Especially about the media. The media of public information is far from free of communists and people who operate under the guise of liberalism. Liberalism. They're ready at all times to do an effective smear job. Among these communist tools may be found editorial writers, columnists, news commentators, analysts in the press, radio, and television. They go overboard in giving top news coverage to racial incidents fomented by the leftists, and also those incidents that are interpreted so as to show biased attitudes of whites against Negroes. This is a propaganda hoax aimed not at helping the Negro, but at casting America in a bad light in order to destroy its prestige and influence abroad. In the meantime, the Negro is a sacrificial lamb, the innocent victim of the widespread racial hate which the leftists are creating. The energizing of race hate is an asset to the red cause. The more the merrier, so long as it erupts in cross burnings, threats, loss of jobs, refusal of loans, boycotts, bombings, fistfights, beatings, and shootings. Thus, all racial progress based upon understanding, goodwill, friendship, and mutual cooperation built up painfully over the years is wiped out. White Americans are set against Negro Americans and vice versa. The stage is thus set for the opening of a dark and bloody era in Negro and white relations. And he mentions that they don't care about the Negro. They just say they care about getting reelected. That's their only concern.
You know, wow.
Here's my conclusion on this. Black Lives Matter, some of the related organizations, they're not new. Obviously, this has been happening for close to a century now. It's happening in the 30s. It's nothing new. The brilliance of Black Lives Matter, it's so hard to disagree with that statement. What am I going to say? Black lives don't matter?
Right.
How am I going to accuse that of being a bad term?
Right.
I want to use the hashtag. I want to use the t-shirt. I want to wear the hat. Well, maybe I can do that, but not agree with the organization. I'll agree with the statement, but not the organization. The reason you can't do that as a believer and just anybody, if you have common sense about everything you saw here, is because every time you use the phrase, you give them capital. Here's what I mean. When all this stuff started popping off earlier this year, a lot of people started donating money because they were concerned about the black condition. There was a South Korean pop group called BTS, very popular, even in America. They wanted to help. They donated $1 million. Who do you donate it to? Out of all the black organizations that have been here for years trying to help black people, they donated to Black Lives Matter. It's only been around since, 2013? That's the organization they chose to go to. Because now Black Lives Matter America is associated with Black Lives Matter is blackness, is the black condition. Whatever Black Lives Matter say, that's what black people are thinking. But it's not true. We've proven that it's not true. Black people don't even agree with this policy and these pillars. We don't agree that the nuclear family is bad. We don't agree that we need to get police out of our community. We don't agree with that. But Black Lives Matter has become the voice. So when you use the hashtag, when you give them capital, you are giving them money,
legitimacy,
capital.
Yeah.
And legitimacy.
Yeah.
So after everything we've seen, when you see the riots, when you see the attack on the Catholic Church and the statues and the tearing down of businesses, and we want to tear down Mount Rushmore, we're calling all the previous presidents racist and things like that, that's not coincidental. This is not a natural movement. I need you to understand, if you're black watching this, or white, or anybody watching this in America, this is not a natural movement. One phrase I've heard repeated is something that Martin Luther King said. And he said that, I believe riots are the language of the oppressed. And so people have been taking that and saying, well, okay, this is why the riots are happening. You've been oppressed so long. It's just, this is the tipping point. It's not. That's not what this is. This is manufactured. This is financed. This is communist ideology. It's a part of it. You have to do these things if you want to have this kind of uprising. And that's the reason why they're attacking the institution of America. We're attacking Mount Rushmore. We're attacking white Jesus. We're attacking all the things because these are the things that are the institutions of capitalism and white supremacy, as we say. Get it? So you have to attack the entire institution. Why? Because if the institution is racist, if the system is racist, that's why they keep saying institutional racism, systemic racism. If the institution and system is racist, then what do? You have to tear it down. You can't fix it. You have to tear it down if it's indeed true. Then we can associate ourselves with the old civil rights movement. This is not that. This is not a move of God. What is Black Lives Matter? It's a communist organization. But it's also a black liberation movement. But what we're discovering based on that book that Manning Johnson wrote is that for a lot of history, they've been one and the same. Yeah. Communist movements have been dominating black liberation movements for a long time. Yeah. And communist ideology has become black ideology. And they're trying to make it one and the same. Because it's not about you, it's a manipulation game. So everything you're seeing, there's no divorcement between Black Lives Matter and then all the chaos and things like that. it's all part of the same ideology. And they're not the only organization. There's other ones too.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, I hate to put it this way, rich white people financing this. And the reason I make that statement is because if your whole ideal is to be just completely black, straight across the board, black on black on black, and you make the criticism that, well, you know, Christianity is a white man's religion, which is stupid because it started with the Jews and then it went to Ethiopia and Africa. So it was the African religion before it was a white man religion. But whatever, what do I know?
Yeah.
I just know the Bible. But anyway, so, but Christianity is a white man's religion. Well, if the problem with Christianity is that the white man gave it to you, then you got to dump communism because a German white man gave that to you too. Black Lives Matter is a communist organization. The ideology is communist. The practices are communist. The belief system is like, it's not me trying to make something up. It's not me trying to smear them. This is not an attack. This is just a revelation of what they're saying out of their own mouths. Yeah. I'm not even saying like, I have an opinion obviously, but I'm not even saying like, oh, this is evil. I'm just saying this is it. This is what's happening. Yeah. Now it is evil, but I'm saying this is just legitimately what it is. And they're not hiding it at all. All I did was read. I just read and copy and pasted.
Again,
that's all I did.
It goes back to the universal assumption that blacks are very gullible. Mm-hmm. You want to tell them something that they want to hear, and you can keep them in control by giving them things to show them that you don't have to work for it. We'll give it to you. We'll take care of you. Not realizing that that is more oppressive than anything else.
If there is a sickness in the black community, it's this ongoing definition of our identities by our blackness and our need to create an ideology that is strictly black and divorced from whiteness, when that division is never actually going to fix it. So in the next couple of videos, I'm going to, now that I've got the facts out of the way, I'm going to now talk about what the answer is for racism from the Christian perspective. Yeah. Because if you saw this, read all this, and you're like, okay, obviously I can't stand with Black Lives Matter anymore. I can't use the hashtag. I can't give them that capital anymore. What do I do? Do I just ignore injustice? How do I fix this? What do I do for my family? We're living in fear, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's hard being black in America. There's an answer for that. It's not these guys. No. Black Lives Matter ain't it.
No.
But I'm going to show you now what it is. But I had to get this elephant out of the way so that you could receive this, because otherwise this powerful voice right now that needs to be shut down would constantly be converting people all over again like it was doing in the 30s. It's the same thing.
And you know what? It's working.
Yeah.
It's having its effect. But it's distracting from the reality of really what's happening and what's going on.
In the next video, we're going to give you some answers that you can actually walk away with and do something with. So thank you for watching. Subscribe to the notification bell. We'll see you tomorrow.